Hi, it's Dr. Jack. I'm ready to read chapter 6 of Ozma of Oz. This chapter is called The Heads of Languidere. They walked slowly down the path between the rocks, Tick-Tock going first, Dorothy following him, and the yellow hen trotting along last of all. At the foot of the path, the copper man leaned down and tossed aside with ease the rocks that cumbered the way. Then he turned to Dorothy and said, "Let me carry your dinner pail." She placed it in his right hand at once, and the copper fingers closed firmly over the stout handle. Then the little procession marched out upon the level sands. As soon as the three wheelers who were guarding the mound saw them, they began to shout their wild cries and rolled swiftly toward the little group, as if to capture them or bar their way. But when the foremost had approached near enough, Tick-Tock swung the dinner pail and struck the wheeler a sharp blow over its head with the queer weapon. Perhaps it did not hurt very much, but it made a great noise, and the wheeler uttered a howl and tumbled over on its side. The next minute it scrambled to its wheels and rolled away as fast as it could go, screeching with fear at the same time. "I told you they were harmless," began Tick-Tock, but before he could say another wheeler was upon them. Crack went the dinner pail against its head, knocking its straw hat a dozen feet away, and that was enough for this wheeler also. It rolled away after the first one, and the third did not wait to be pounded with the pail, but joined its fellows as quickly as its wheels would whirl. The yellow hen gave a cackle of delight, and flying to a perch upon Tick-Tock's shoulder, she said, "Bravely done, my copper friend, and wisely thought of, too. Now we are free from those ugly creatures." But just then a large band of wheelers rolled from the forest, and relying upon their numbers to conquer, they advanced fiercely upon Tick-Tock. Dorothy grabbed Billina in her arms and held her tight, and the machine embraced the form of the little girl with his left arm, the better to protect her. Then the wheelers were upon them. Rattly, bang, bang went the dinner pail in every direction, and it made so much clatter, bumping against the heads of the wheelers, that they were much more frightened than hurt and fled in a great panic. All that is except their leader. This wheeler had stumbled against another and fallen flat upon his back, and before he could get his wheels under him to rise again, Tick-Tock had fastened his copper fingers into the neck of the gorgeous jacket of his foe and held him fast. "Tell your people to go away," commanded the machine. The leader of the wheelers hesitated to give this order, so Tick-Tock shook him as a terrier dog does a rat, until the wheeler's head rattled together with a noise like hailstones on a window pane. I'll show you a picture of him rattling the wheeler around a little. Then, as soon as the creature could get its breath, it shouted to the others to roll away, which they immediately did. "Now," said Tick-Tock, "you shall come with us and tell me what I want to know." "You'll be sorry for treating me this way," whined the wheeler. "I'm a terribly fierce person." "As for that," answered Tick-Tock, "I am only a machine and cannot feel sorrow or joy no matter what happens. But you are wrong to think yourself terrible or fierce." "Why so?" asked the wheeler. "Because no one else thinks as you do. Your wheels make you helpless to injure anyone, for you have no fists and cannot scratch or even pull hair, nor have you any feet to kick with. All you can do is yell and shout, and that does not hurt anyone at all." The wheeler burst into a flood of tears, to Dorothy's great surprise. "Now I and my people are ruined forever," he sobbed, "for you have discovered our secret. Being so helpless, our only hope is to make people afraid of us by pretending we are very fierce and terrible, and writing in the sand warnings to beware the wheelers. Until now we have frightened everyone, but since you have discovered our weakness, our enemies will fall upon us and make us very miserable and unhappy." "Oh no," exclaimed Dorothy, who was sorry to see this beautifully dressed wheeler so miserable. "Tick-Tock will keep your secret, and so will Billina and I. Only you must promise not to frighten children any more if they come near to you." "I won't, indeed I won't," promised the wheeler, ceasing to cry and becoming more cheerful. "I'm not really bad, you know, but we have to pretend to be terrible in order to prevent others from attacking us." That is not exactly true, said Tick-Tock, starting to walk toward the path through the forest, and still holding fast to his prisoner, who rolled slowly along beside him. You and your people are full of mischief, and like to bother those who fear you, and you are often impudent and disagreeable too. But if you will try to cure those faults, I will not tell anyone how helpless you are. I'll try, of course, replied the Wheeler eagerly, and thank you, Mr. Tick-Tock, for your kindness. I am only a machine, said Tick-Tock. I cannot be kind any more than I can be sorry or glad. I can only do what I'm wound up to do. Are you wound up to keep my secret? Asked the Wheeler anxiously. Yes, if you behave yourself. But tell me, who rules the land of Eve now? Asked the machine. There is no ruler, was the answer, because every member of the royal family is imprisoned by the Gnome King. But the Princess Languidere, who is niece to our late King Evaldo, lives in a part of the royal palace and takes as much money out of the royal treasury as she can spend. The Princess Languidere is not exactly a ruler, you see, because she doesn't rule, but she's the nearest approach to a ruler we have at present. I do not remember her, said Tick-Tock. What does she look like? That I cannot say, replied the Wheeler, although I have seen her 20 times, for the Princess Languidere is a different person every time I see her, and the only way her subjects can recognize her at all is by means of a beautiful ruby key that he always wears on a chain attached to her left wrist. When we see the key, we know we are beholding the princess. That is strange, said Dorothy in astonishment. Do you mean to say that so many different princesses are one and the same person? Not exactly, answered the Wheeler. There is, of course, but one princess, but she appears to us in many forms which are more or less beautiful. She must be a witch, exclaimed the girl. I do not think so. I do not think so, declared the Wheeler. But there is some mystery connected with her nevertheless. She is a very vain creature and lives mostly in her room, surrounded by mirrors, so that she can admire herself whichever way she looks. No one answered this speech because they had just passed out of the forest, and their attention was fixed upon the scene before them. A beautiful vale in which were many fruit trees and green fields, with pretty farmhouses scattered here and there, and broad, smooth roads that led in every direction. In the center of this lovely vale, about a mile from where our friends were standing, rose the tall spires of the royal palace, which glittered brightly against their background of blue sky. The palace was surrounded by charming grounds full of flowers and shrubbery. Several tinkling fountains could be seen, and there were pleasant walks bordered by rows of white marble statuary. All these details Dorothy was of course unable to notice or admire until they advanced along the road to a position quite near to the palace, and she was still looking at the pretty sights when her little party entered the grounds and approached the big front door of the king's own apartments. To their disappointment, they found the door tightly closed. A sign was tacked to the panel which read as follows: Owner absent. Please knock at the third door of the left wing. Appears to be nobody home. Now, said Tick-Tock to the captive Wheeler, you must show us the way to the left wing. Very well, agreed the prisoner. It is around here to the right. How can the left wing be at the right? Demanded Dorothy, who feared the Wheeler was fooling them. Because there used to be 3 wings, and 2 were torn down, so the one on the right is the only one left. It's a trick of the Princess Languidere to prevent visitors from annoying her. Then the captive led them around to the wing, after which the machine man, having no further use for the Wheeler, permitted him to depart and rejoin his fellows. He immediately rolled away at great pace and was soon lost to sight. Tick-Tock, now counting the doors in the wing, knocked loudly upon the third one. It was opened by a little maid in a cap trimmed with gay ribbons, who bowed respectfully and asked, What do you wish, good people? Are you Princess Languidere? Asked Dorothy. No, miss, I'm her servant, replied the maid. May I see the princess, please? I will tell her you are here, miss, and ask her to grant you an audience, said the maid. Step in, please, and take a seat in the drawing room. So Dorothy walked in, followed closely by the machine. But as the yellow hen tried to enter after them, the little maid cried, "Shoo!" and flapped her apron in Bellina's face. "Shoo yourself!" retorted the hen, drawing back in anger and ruffling up her feathers. "Haven't you any better manners than that?" "Oh, do you talk?" inquired the maid, evidently surprised. "Can't you hear me?" snapped Bellina. "Drop that apron and get out of the doorway so I may enter with my friends." "The princess won't like it," said the maid, hesitating. "I don't care whether she likes it or not," replied Bellina, and fluttering her wings with a loud noise, she flew straight at the maid's face. The little servant at once ducked her head, and the hen reached Dorothy's side in safety. "Very well," sighed the maid. "If you are ruined because of this obstinate hen, don't blame me. It isn't safe to annoy the Princess Languidere." Tell her we are waiting, if you please," Dorothy requested with dignity. "Bellina is my friend and must go wherever I go." Without more words, the maid left them to a richly furnished drawing room, lighted with subdued rainbow tints that came in through the beautiful stained glass windows. "Remain here," she said. "What name shall I give the princess?" "I am Dorothy Gale of Kansas," replied the child, "and this gentleman is a machine named Tick-Tock, and the yellow hen is my friend Bellina." The little servant bowed and withdrew, going through several passages and mounting 2 marble stairways before she came to the apartments occupied by her mistress. Princess Languidere's sitting room was paneled with great mirrors, which reached from the ceiling to the floor. Also, the ceiling was composed of mirrors, and the floor was of polished silver that reflected every object upon it. So when Languidere sat in her easy chair and played soft melodies upon her mandolin, her form was mirrored hundreds of times in walls and ceiling and floor, and whichever way the lady turned her head, she could see and admire her own features. This she loved to do, and just as the maid entered, she was saying to herself, "This head with the auburn hair and hazel eyes is quite attractive. I must wear it more often than I have done of late, although it may not be the best of my collection." "You have company, your highness," announced the maid, bowing low. "Who is it?" asked Languidere, yawning. "Dorothy Gale of Kansas, Mr. Tick-Tock, and Bellina," answered the maid. "What a queer lot of names," murmured the princess, beginning to be a little interested. "What are they like? Is Dorothy Gale of Kansas pretty?" "She might be called so," the maid replied. "And is Mr. Tick-Tock attractive?" continued the princess. "That I cannot say, your highness, but he seems very bright. Will your gracious highness see them?" "Oh, I may as well, Nanda, but I'm tired admiring this head, and if my visitor has any claim to beauty, I must take care that she does not surpass me. So I will go to my cabinet and change to number 17, which I think is my best appearance, don't you?" "Your number 17 is exceedingly beautiful," answered Nanda with another bow. And the princess yawned. Then she said, "Help me to rise." That's the end. I wonder what she's talking about. Does she have different heads? We'll have to find out tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.